Okay, I'm going to show you how to do a garter rib kind of collar, and what you want to do is you want to E-wrap cast on, and then what you want to do is you want to knit 3, purl 2, okay, and you'll want to do that all the way around, and then over here, because it's a 54 peg loom and it doesn't work up evenly, what you'll do is you'll just purl a single over here. So what you want to do is knit 3, purl 2 all the way around, and then just do a purl single over here on the last one because it's not exactly even. And then you're going to do that for a total of 35 rows. Okay, and then after you do 35 rows, the trick will be starting a decreasing section, which is going to seem very similar to a lot of the things that I've been working on with this book. So part of this is already kind of self-explained. We're going to do 30 rows, and then we're going to decrease the front, but we're not going to decrease the back. In fact, we're not going to touch the back. And then we're going to slowly add back into the front to do this particular style. So this is kind of a neat little pattern. So go ahead and pause the video, do your knit 3, purl 2 all the way around, purl that last one because you don't have 2 to purl on the end, and you'll just do that for a total of 35 rows, and then we will start from there. Okay, I have done my 35 rows, I believe it was. Okay, and there is my beautiful rib stitch that you see, which is the collar area. Now it's time to do the V, and then you'll be doing an add-on. So what I want to explain is you're going to need to put in your stitch markers. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 stitch marker there, and I count 14 over and have a stitch marker here. Alright, and that's going to tell you the stitch markers you're going to be working through in order to do the V. Now, if you have done my hoodic pattern, then this is the same thing. Alright, you're working on having a V, but you're not going to touch this back half at all. Alright, but we're not doing it in a reverse side, so this is going to be a little easier. But what you need to do is you need to start off with a base zone. So what you want to do is you want to knit 3, purl 2, and you continue your stitch patterning until you get to that stitch marker. Knit 3, purl 2, knit 3, and because that's your last one, you're not going to purl it, you're going to knit it, because you want that chain on that end there, on the end. So you're always going to purl those end pegs no matter what. Always purl the end pegs. Alright, now you are at your starting point. You're going to be working between these stitch markers at this point, over back and forth. Alright, so we've stopped here, we're ready to move our way back and forth. Okay, so what we want to do, so we want to do our first row. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to slip that first stitch. And if you want to keep up with what you're doing, if you get confused, what looks like a knit is a purl, alright, and what looks like purls is knit on the inside of the loom. You can look this way, but I find it's easier to just look inside. So if it looks the opposite, that's what it is, alright. So if it looks like a knit, it's a purl on the inside. If it looks like a purl, it's a knit on the inside. So as I can see, I have 3 knits I need to do. Alright, so I want to do 3 knits, 1, 2, 3, after I slip that first stitch, and purl 2, and I'm going to go all the way over on that. Alright, 1, 2, 3, and then purl 2. And then you're going to work your way back. So you're going to do 2 rows following the patterning. Now remember, there's a single purl over here. See, there's that single purl. Only want to do 1. Alright, and then knit 3. So remember that single purl is there. Don't forget about it. Alright, then work your way over. And I'm going to kind of give you a general guide because the tedious part is going to be adding your chains back on after not touching your back side, okay? Now you can do the same concept with a larger loom, okay, where you're going to decrease. Okay, and there's my last stitch right there. Okay, you can do this on a larger loom. You can do it on the 70 if you want. If you want a looser kind of cowl, turtleneck kind of thing, and you want it to fit a little bigger, because this is going to be kind of small on an adult. It's going to be perfect for a child or something. But if you don't need much of a neckline that you'd like to sew to another shirt or something, you could do this on this size. But what we're doing is we've divided the loom in half, and we're going to decrease down on the front while chaining, and you're going to be decreasing by every you're going to do 2 rows, and then you're going to decrease. You're doing 2 rows, and you're going to decrease, okay? So basically every third row is a decrease, and depending on if you're decreasing onto a purl, then you purl. If you decrease onto a knit, you knit. That's kind of the rule of thumb, alright? And you're not going to touch the back half of the loom, because what you're going to do is you're going to add back on, and you're going to be working your way around, okay? So that's kind of the general idea of this. So you can do more rows. I find 35 rows is actually enough for your neck and a nice fold down, which is all you need. So you can do 35 to 40 rows even on like the 70 peg, okay? You can do the same concept, divide it in half, decrease the front every third row. Okay, so I'm going to work myself back. Then what I'm going to do is decrease, and I'll show you how to do that. But I'm not going to touch the back half of the loom, okay? So divide if you're going to work the 70, do about 35-40 rows of the rib stitch. You can adjust the rib stitch to whatever works. It should work with a 5 without the single one messing around over here. Okay, so it should work fine on that one. You're going to divide the loom in half, and you're going to decrease by every third row. So do 2 rows and then decrease. So you can follow it up to this point, alright? So I'm going to show you the row back, always slipping that first stitch. You're going to knit the 2, and then you're going to purl 2. And keep up with your rib stitch pattern. That is the important part of this. Always keep up with the rib stitch patterning. Knit 3, purl 2. Remember that single purl over here. So if you've been watching and you've been doing my hoodic and stuff like this, shouldn't be too kind of foreign to you, okay? And you purl the 1. But always remember to purl that 1 rather than 2. So knit 3. And I like to turn this garment inside out when I'm done. I think that the purl side shows up more distinct, but it's entirely up to you whether you turn it inside out. It's supposed to look the same no matter what. Alright, so here's our knit 3, and then we knit that last stitch always. Alright, now we're going to do a decrease, okay? Well, we're going to skip that, and we're going to slip that first one. We're going to decrease over that second one, alright? We're going to move that slip over, and then you're going to knit 2 together, because it's a knit stitch, okay? So we have a couple more that we're going to be doing a knit. So move that over, and then you knit, because we're moving it on to a knit. Alright, so you're going to work your way around, and you're going to stop before the last 3 stitches on the other side where the stitch marker is, alright? So now we're only going to knit 1, and then we're going to purl 2. And you just want to keep up with what your knit and purls are. You may want to put stitch markers that gives you an idea of where your knit and purls are, which might make it easier on you. I tend to just look at what I'm doing, and it works out fine. I'm pretty fast at knitting, so I kind of can see it through the loom, but that's years of experience there where you don't have to constantly have it drawn out for you. There's some things I find that are just easier to do stitch markers on if it gets really complicated. Alright, so we're going to work our way to the other side, and I'm going to show you this. Alright, and then I'm going to explain something to you, and then I'm going to tell you, go for it. Get it decreased, I think, down to 4 stitches. Okay, and then you'll do a bind off. Alright, Okay, now we're down to our last 3. Okay, and what I like to do is, you are decreasing onto a knit again. What I like to do is take that end stitch, pick it up, pick the next one up, place that last stitch you picked up onto the peg, and I usually do this on my lap so it makes it a little easier without a slick surface underneath, but you're going to put that onto there. Then you are going to place this one onto the next stitch. Alright, as I said, I usually do this on a lap, and so it doesn't slip around on me so much, and this goes a lot smoother. Alright, there we go. And then what we're going to do is we're going to knit 2 together and then knit that last one. Alright, so then you're going to slip that stitch and work yourself around, and then you're going to work yourself around, and then you're going to decrease going this way. And so it works the same. You decrease, and then you're going to stop before the last 3, and you're going to pick up that last stitch and move over. Now when your decrease falls on a purl, you will purl the 2 together rather than knit the 2 together. I don't know that it'd really make much of a difference. If you accidentally knit the 2 together, I don't think it's going to kill the project for you. Okay, there's a lot more leeway than people realize when it comes to knitting. Just make sure that you always knit that last stitch on the end, and that you always slip it when you start the row. Okay, because you want that chain. That chain is going to be imperative when it comes to adding them back to the loom to get that beautiful V that we're working for. So I'm going to tell you to pause the video and get yourself decreased down to 4 stitches and then bind off. Okay, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to show you how to go in and finish it up to where you have the garter stitch area. Okay, right now we're doing the rib stitch, and then we'll do the garter stitch area and start adding that V front back, and that gives it a whole nice, really unique effect. So just remember, knit the last stitch when you're finishing the row, slip it when you're starting it on either side. You'll be decreasing on the opposite side every other time. Alright, as you start. Okay, so we're going to do 1 round, 1 back, and then we're going to decrease. Okay, so every 3rd row is a decrease. Get down to 4 stitches, and then we'll start adding the garter and everything back to make this a little bit more technical. But this can be done on the 70 peg, half every 3rd row, because what you're wanting to do is get the general amount of however many decreases you do is kind of however many chains you get. You're going to have a little bit more, but not much. Alright, maybe a couple. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video. Get your front half decreased down like you do for your dickies on the hoodic and the Victorian lace one. You do the same thing. You just get it decreased down to that point, and you keep with the rib stitch. So it's very similar to that. In fact, it's the exact concept to that. And then we will start on the rest of it. So go ahead and pause the video, get that much done, and then we will go from there. Okay. As you can see, there's our front. Okay, and now we need to start adding these chains that are right here back in. As you can see, there's a series of chains through here, and we'll need to add them back in. So what we want to do is we want to start with a slip knot. Alright, and what we want to do is we want to place a chain on top of the last stitch, and you want to try to get the whole chain onto the peg. Okay, alright, and we want to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, you're going to get the whole chain onto the peg. Alright, now I'm gonna put that on there, and we're going to knit those 2 together and knit our way around. Now we're not doing a rib stitch anymore, we're doing a garter stitch. So we're going to knit our way around, and this is row 1. And you're going to do 3 rows of each. 3 rows of purl, 3 rows of knit. Now you can do it differently. You can do 2 rows if you choose, or you can do a single row, 1 knit, 1 purl, and that kind of thing. It's entirely up to you. Okay, so I'm going to slip that last stitch and I'm going to knit my way back over. Alright, okay, then I've knitted that last one over, and then what I want to do is I want to add the next chain to the next empty peg. Okay, so there's my last stitch, and here's my next chain, and I want to add it to the next empty peg. Alright, then I'm going to knit it. Now I want to come over here and I want to add the next chain to the next empty peg over here as well. Okay, and then I'm going to knit around one more time, which will give me 3 rows of knit. Alright, and then I'll knit my way back. I'll purl my way back. So we're going to knit around, and this will be row 3. And then add that chain in as a knit. Then you're going to slip that first stitch. You're going to purl your way over and make sure you knit the last peg over there. Okay, so go ahead and purl your way around. And once you purl your way around, you can add another. So remember, this is your first row of purl. You'll need to do 2 more rows of purl after that. So go ahead and purl your way around, and then we'll add another chain in. Okay, so we're adding a chain in every other row. I'll knit that last one. Alright, now we want to add the next chain, which is right here to the peg. Okay, we want to come over here and we want to add the next chain to the next peg over here as well. Okay, alright, you can go ahead and knit that one. Slip it and purl your way over. And remember, this is row 2 on your purl. Now, if you end up purling this one and not knitting, I don't think it's going to hurt anything. So if you purl it, it isn't going to kill anything to do that, okay? I still slip it before I purl it back, okay? And that'll make the row 3 on the purl. And then after you purl your way around, you're going to add the next chain in again. Okay, so you'll find your next chain and you will add it in. Okay, so you'll add that chain in over there after you do your purl around, and you'll add the next chain in over here. Okay, and you're going to do that back and forth. You're going to do 3 rows of purl, 3 rows of knit, 3 rows of purl, and every other row you're going to be adding your chains in to the next empty peg off of here. Now you'll have a few chains that are left over that aren't going to be added to empty peg over here. So go ahead and pause the video and keep adding your chains in. Remember, it's 3 rows of knit, 3 rows of purl. Every other row you add your chain in to the next empty peg and you work it in. And you will eventually get all the way to the end, and I will explain what to do with these last few chains that aren't going to go on an empty peg. Alright, so pause the video, get it down to where you've got all your pegs filled back up with stitches, and then we'll go from there. Okay, we have everything added back, and we've been doing our garter stitch, as you can see through here. And this is kind of what it's looking like, as you can see through here. Now, we have about 4 chains on each side that don't have any pegs you can add to. So what you want to do is you want to continue your patterning of, and I have one more like purl row, and what I want to do is, for instance, that's my next chain. I just want to add it to that last, peg, and you're going to do that. You're going to add it last peg at the end of each row at this point. Okay, so like for instance, I have one more purl row to do. I will purl all the way around and purl 2 together. Then I will add this next stitch in over here, and I'll be back to knitting. So I'll knit all the way around, knit 2 together, add 1 on top. And so you're going to do that until you reach, like for instance, you see this little knot here you want to go to, and yes, this here is a chain that you need to add. Alright, that's your last chain that you'll need to add right just before that knot, in order to go ahead and have it even on both sides. Then so you get that far, and then what you do is you want to go in and you want to do the modified bind off that Loom a Hat does. Okay, and that's it. That's how you make this. Okay, so you do the same concept on a 70 peg loom. You just add in, and then you add those last little chains that don't have pegs on, and then you knit them together at the end of each row, and then you do the modified bind off, so it has a little bit of stretch around the neckline. Okay, and you can add this to a sweater if you want. You can wear it as is. You can make it larger, smaller, that kind of thing. So this is kind of a versatile thing that you can add and take away from outfits, kind of thing. So that is how you make the rib garter, collar. All right, and so finish up, modified bind off, and you're done.